and the style in which they did it?
I'm going to get to this in a second. I want you to hold that thought because I have personal interest in that particular game for a lot of reasons. But just remember, try to count in your head how many steps Derek Queen took before he let the shot go. Just try to count, and we will get back to that. I think I want to lay away from pronouncing Duke great yet. My caution here is that all the other teams in their conference, the ACC, went out in the first round. And I wonder if this is the year, Pablo, that Duke assumes the Gonzaga role, that the conference does not prepare them well enough to win 5 hard games in a row, which is what you have to do if you're going to win this thing. I actually thought the best game as a whole, to me, was the UConn game, UConn against Florida. Because UConn hadn't lost an NCAA game in over 2 years. They'd won 13 straight NCAA games, and they were playing a team that many people believe, including myself, is probably the best team in the country, Florida. And they played them close, and they played them with honor. And afterwards, Danny Hurley cried, and you don't really see that a lot. I know that he's loud, and I know he can be very obnoxious, and I find myself liking him. I've liked him for a long time. But let me get to the game you're talking about.
Wait, hold on. I am shocked to hear that you like someone who is loud and obnoxious. Just totally shocking to me that you might appreciate the style.
Almost all my friends. Almost all my friends are loud and obnoxious. All right, so let me get to this game through the prism of my friend Steve Sands at the Golf Channel. Because Steve Sands loves Maryland, loves the Terps, has picked the Terps to win this tournament. But he's a graduate of Colorado State. So he's completely torn as far as this game goes, even though he's rooting for Maryland ahead of his own alma mater. Again, let us get to Derek Queen. He's a great player. He's a beast. He's huge. He's facile. He's really good. He took at least 3, maybe 4 steps, and it wasn't called. If you want to swallow the whistle late in the game, Pablo, that's okay with me. Just don't tell me he didn't walk. It's like when kids take charges. When they position themselves, and it never gets called. They always go to their hips. They always go block. I hate this. I hate it.
Tony, as the son of 2 doctors, you would need one of my dad's urological tools to find that whistle if I was a ref. There's no way, no way in bleep you could do that. Now, I get it. I get your point.
He walked.
I guess.
So he walked.
Look, he walked so, Maryland could fly. But look, Saturday's big result.
Okay, and he's a great player. Great player.
He is, and we're not, by the way, I love the quote before we get to Saturday. The quote was from him in the huddle, "Give me the bleeping ball." I also love that. I love that. I love that Derek Queen is that kind of a character we might just get also in the draft, as you referenced. But okay, Saturday.
4 steps.
Big result. Big result, Tony, on Saturday. John Calipari and 10-seed Arkansas upsetting Rick Pitino and 2-seed St. John's. This was an ugly affair. Teams combining to go just 4 of 41 from 3. But it's a tense relationship between the star coaches that added this backdrop of truly deep drama. So what was your reaction to the result?
Let me go backwards for a second, because Calipari didn't just beat Pitino. The game before that, he beat Bill Self. Bill Self and Rick Pitino are 2 of only 3 active coaches who have won multiple NCAA championships. And the third one is Danny Hurley. So Calipari had a great weekend. The only thing that didn't work on the weekend was that hideous sport jacket that he was wearing against St. John's. That was not great. But he also behaved very, very well. He could have gloated, and he didn't gloat. They don't get along. He didn't gloat. Everything about that was pretty good as far as I was concerned. And I thought it was a great game. Not a well-played game because, as you say, they combined for 4 of 41 from 3, which is the worst ever in an NCAA tournament game. But Pablo, because they shot it so badly and they played so hard on defense and they had such spirit trying, both teams, it turned out to me, I thought it was a great game to watch. A great game to watch.
Yeah, look, Arkansas is funny to me. They're an underdog in this tournament because they're the 10 seed. They are the lowest seed to make the Sweet 16. And like Calipari's jacket, it's a bit of an optical illusion, right? Arkansas should be better. They were ranked number 16 in the preseason. Obviously, the regular season was bad in the SEC. All of that makes them an undervalued stock to buy John Calipari at a discount. Really smart move.
Yeah.
I want to get to Pitino, though. Rick Pitino, that side of the story here. Rick Pitino post-game So the story here, of course, is he benches the Big East Player of the Year for 5 minutes.
Lewis.
For 5 minutes as
Lewis.
the game
Last five.
slips out of reach. And to me, I am not going to question Rick Pitino as an all-time great coach. He clearly is. This coaching job, even despite the loss, because he had 0 first-rounders on his roster, by the way, incredibly impressive. But it's the post-game, Tony, in which he is asked the obvious questions. Why did you bench this kid? And he managed to do the judo move of saying, you're trying to set me up to kill my own player. I'm not going to do that. And suddenly he's the conquering hero protecting his player as opposed to the guy who has to answer for his player and his decision, which to me is indefensible.
So this is a very interesting thing. I'm pretty sure Steve Lapis was on the call of that game, and he's a former coach. And he was critical of Pitino during the game, which you don't expect to hear. A day later at a different game, Jalen Rose, critical of Rick Pitino. And I understand this. The best player he's got, he sits him the last 4:56 of the game. The only thing I can offer in his defense, and it's probably not good enough, is that Rick Pitino is a New Yorker, which means stitched into his consciousness is the John Starks game. The game where John Starks, I believe it was a playoff game, went 2 for 18 and 1 for 10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that maybe Pitino thinks, my kid doesn't have it tonight. He's 3 of 18 and 0 for 3 from 3. I'm going to save him because he doesn't have it tonight. But it must have been a galling loss to Calipari because he doesn't like him. They don't like each other.
No.
I don't know.
Not at all.
I got no other defense. Let's take an overall look at the 16 teams that are left. The highest seed is now a 10. The next highest is a 6. There are no Cinderellas in this tournament. In fact, all the teams still playing are from major conferences. The SEC, which got a record 14 teams in, still has 7 playing. Pablo, has the SEC justified all those bids?
Absolutely. And it's not going to be the thing we remember from this year, the SEC vindicating itself after being doubted in light of the committee getting a record 14 into the field. It's going to be remembered as the first year of this ongoing experiment in earnest about the transfer portal and NIL and what it does to the thing we all care about when it comes to this sport, really, which is to say, are we at a point where the talent market is now more efficient? What do I mean by this? I mean, if you're really good and you're at a mid-major, are you now just going to be bought and sold towards these power conference teams? Such that a mid-level power conference team in the SEC is going to gobble up all of the would-be Cinderellas. David doesn't have a sling anymore. That's my concern here, Tony. So how do I feel about this? I'm worried for the television product because there are forces that might explain it as we conduct the experiment.
So normally I would sit here with Wilbon, as you know, and Wilbon is deeply distrustful of the SEC and of Duke. And every time we had Jay Billis on the show this year, Wilbon would talk about, oh, this is overstated, this is overrated. And he'd finally turn to Jay and he would say, can't be that good, right? And Jay would say, no, Mike, they are that good this year. The SEC is that good this year. 7 of the last 16 is really something. And the outlier, I mean, the longest shot on the board is John Calipari at a 10. So you know it's going to be a chalky tournament because he's never Cinderella. Never. That's impossible. I understand precisely what you're saying about wondering if there's a market correction here. And this is something that I wanted to say. It's the sort of underlying point to what you're saying. It wasn't the tournament that we're used to seeing in the first weekend. There were only 2 really major upsets, McNeese State, right, and Drake, and they were dispatched by the second game rather handily. So now you have a flood of ranked teams. You know, you want to say that the seeding people did it right, but it also makes me sad because the fireworks that we expect did not materialize. You got 12 of the 16 are 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds. 7 of them are 1s and 2s. It's not satisfying to me. I don't know the explanation. If you seem to suggest we're going to see this all the time. I don't know that, but it's not satisfying the way it usually is.
Yeah, my whole thing with college basketball, and I covered the tournament in person for Sports Illustrated year after year after year, the hard part was the glorious part. I had no idea who these people were. I was learning about these characters. Ali Farouk-Manesh, Steph Curry at Davidson. These were characters, by the way, when you have it just being the biggest 4 conferences populating the Sweet 16, you lose that. You lose the coalition that makes this different and special and, frankly, American. And so now I'm worried. I am worried if this is a trend.
It's remarkable that for the last 40 years, the best two basketball conferences were the ACC and the Big East. They have a total of one team in. One. Unbelievable. Let's take a break. Coming up are Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Time to give the viewers some validation and mail time. Let me see what's first. Pablo, you can't find a tie in Los Angeles between segments? Really? That's so hard to believe. Does it now feel inevitable that Aaron Rodgers will be the next starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
It is not. It can't be. Tony, it can't be, because I am a man of logic and reason. And the only counter-argument to why it should not be inevitable, why rather it is a fait accompli, as you say, is that there is no aphrodisiac like desperation. So if you're the Steelers and you're saying to yourselves, okay, we need to make a high variance move, one with high upside but massive downside, but we need that upside so much because our window as a team might be shutting sooner than we're familiar with, then okay, I guess Aaron Rodgers. But you're telling me the Jets get Justin Fields, they get Rodgers, and they're like, yes, we like this inevitability? That's crazy talk to me. Crazy talk.
So I'm going to run away from the word inevitable for the obvious reason. If Aaron Rodgers believes that everyone believes it's inevitable, he will make sure it doesn't happen, because no one likes drama the way Aaron Rodgers likes drama. I have heard that he spent 6 hours talking to the Pittsburgh Steelers. 6 hours. That is a long time to sit and talk. What could you talk about for 6 hours? You could talk about detailed menus, at training camp, or the quickest way to find a darkness retreat. Look, let's understand something. This is the